for about another week. All right, so here's something I want you to pay attention to. When you look at this, see how light the lines are on that giraffe? See how dark they are on that one? Well, the first color I'm going to put on here will be my lightest color. What color is that on there besides white? Yellow, right? So if I paint yellow over that, what is possibly going to happen with that dark graphite? It might, yeah, smudge and smear and kind of gum up the whole drawing or the painting area and makes it ugly. So if we got it too dark, and I intentionally did that too dark just to show you, if you got really dark lines like that, just take your eraser and go over it a little bit. I'm not going over it real hard. I want to still see my lines. I just don't want them to be super dark. So I'm going to lighten them up a little bit so that it won't smear when I come over here and try to do the yellow over everything. So anything that looks a little too dark to me, I'm just lightening up just a little bit. Now I don't want to go too awfully light because I don't want it to completely disappear when I put the paint over it. But anything about like that is going to work, and it will stay there while I'm working on it. So I'm going to set my reference right here. I'm going to get my watercolors out. Got my brush ready to go. I'm going to get a whole bunch of water in my yellow and in my orange and in my red, because I know I've got to cover a lot of area with it. So I'm going to fill this upper part with my yellow first. And I mean, I need a lot this time. This isn't one time where you scrimp on it. I'm getting a ton of water in here. I'm getting a whole bunch of yellow. Your light color is kind of your base color for your whole painting. So you want to try to have enough to do the entire painting without having to go back and mix up more water over here in the top of your tray, or more paint in the top of your tray. So I got that on there. I'm going to get some of my orange. I'll put it right next to it. Get that filled up pretty good. That I'm not going to need as much of, but I will need a fair amount of it. So I'm going to get a pretty good amount of that. And then the red, I'm not going to need a ton, so I'm just going to put some up here, a little bit lighter version, and then I can kind of stop. So when I say that, you can see here, this has filled the whole thing, this is mostly full, and then that's just enough to get what I need done on here. Now, I have two glasses right here. This one is now dirty. And just for the sake of demonstration, I have two because I need clean water to do this next part. So before you go and put your base color on there, make sure you get clean water and use clean water on it, and don't use stained water like this. Make sure it's clean like this over here. So here's what I'm doing. I'm going to get a whole bunch of water in my brush. I'm going to tip my picture up, and the reason I'm doing that is I want that water just go ahead and run down the page. So it looks a little strange on video, but I'm doing this so, got some eraser crap on there. I'm doing this so it runs around on the page and it's not just sitting flat on the desk. Because I need quite a bit of water to start with. In fact, be really careful if you do this. I'm going to cheat just a little bit and pour a little water on it because I need it wet to start with. This will cause it to warp slightly. You just got to kind of keep an eye on that as you're going. But what I'm trying to do is get this whole page damp, not soaking wet, but damp, so that my paint will spread around really well, really even, and I can cover a lot of ground in a hurry. This is why I wasn't wanting to do a guided demonstration on this. Now I'm going to get my yellow. I'm just going to go crazy and get it on there really fast. Now I have it sitting flat on my desk now. This would be the time to do that. And I'm going so fast, I put some right over the spot where I want it to be kind of white. So just pick it up, and then I'll go right back over this. And I don't have to worry about painting over my drawing or anything, because all of this is going to get another color over it, and my subjects are all going to be painted in black, so it doesn't really matter on them if you paint right over, because black will cancel out anything underneath it every darn time. The main thing I'm trying to do here is make sure that I've got yellow over everything at this point. And I'm trying to go really fast because I don't want it drying before I go to the next step. Get a little bit brighter yellow up here. Just a little light for me. And all my brush strokes are horizontal basically. I don't want to do any vertical brush. I don't want to come in here and go this way over it. I want them to stay horizontal. Now up on the screen, for whatever reason, that looks really, really light. I'm going to have you turn around for just 1 second. This is what it actually looks like. See, it's much brighter. Okay? But when we look on the screen, it's just the camera. That's the way it picks it up. It's not quite as vibrant as what it looks in real life. Now I'm going to move it a little bit so it gets to the edges. I'm letting it run just slightly, but not too much. I'm just trying to make sure it evens out just a little bit. And then I'm going to come in with a darker color right here on the top edge. That's my orange. Again, I'm keeping that horizontal. And I don't want to go too crazy with it just yet because it's still pretty wet. So I'm just getting a little bit on there to start with. All the time I'm kind of looking at this and I'm going to roughly base it off of what I see on here. You can see I got a little orange that shoots through where the head is right here. I am trying to keep these paintbrush strokes horizontal. I do not want to get vertical strokes on there anywhere. Big streak right through here. And the important thing is that your paper is still wet and your paint underneath is wet, because you want these to all be very soft looking, because this is sky. We don't want hard edges. Now I started to get a little hard edge right there, so I'd come and put a little bit more water back on my paper, because I don't want a hard edge like that right there. So coming back, making sure it stays soft, stays light. If it looks like it's going to be a hard edge at all, I'll come back in here, put a little more water on it, and come back in and pull my brush strokes across there. All the time I'm paying attention to make sure I'm not getting hard edges anywhere. And right now it looks pretty good. There's a little bit of a hard edge here, but I don't care because this is going to be covered up by something dark in the end. Now, as far as where this sun is reflecting in here, I'm going to go just a little bit dark around the edge here. Then I'll come in, I've got kind of a hard edge, so I'm going to soften it. Soften it right there. And I need some more orange up in here, I can see. There's not enough. So I'm looking at my reference, checking things. Okay, it's looking pretty good. Now I'm going to do some darker oranges. I've wanted that to dry for a little while so I can come back and do this. This puts a little more intensity on it. The first time I went across was basically just to get established where I was going to put the orange. Now I'm coming in and upping the intensity by quite a bit. Again, always watching to make sure that I don't get a hard edge anywhere. And if it is going to be a hard edge somewhere, I want it down here where it's going to be covered up. Soften that up just a little bit. I'm also watching to see what it's doing while it's drying. I want to make sure I don't get any really uneven spots anywhere. know I'm going really quick, but that's kind of how these have to be done. This is not a be half asleep kind of thing. You got to be pretty awake while you're doing it. Now I've got my oranges on there, my yellows on there. The last color I need on here now is my reds. And I'm going to throw a little red right in here. It gets quite red right underneath the sun right here, so I'm going to put that right there. Going back and forth. Some really intense reds up here. You gotta be a little careful with that red. If you get too much on there, it'll dominate the whole painting. We want to make sure we don't do that. Try to keep that relatively soft. And there's actually an area over here where it kind of transitions into a brown a little bit. And I am going to use just a little brown here. I got to be careful not to get too much on there because brown's such a dominant color. If you get too much, it'll make a mess. I'm going to let it dry slightly. It's a little too wet to put paint on right now. Just spread that around. I'll try to see if I can put some of that brown on there and hopefully not mess it up. And this is a hill, actually. It's a little hill that's in the painting. So this one I'm not going perfectly horizontal with because it kind of goes up and then comes down. If you look right here, that's what's right there in the painting. That's actually a brown in the painting. Just blend it over to where it goes black. And eventually, I'll put black over this and cut off part of the bottom part of this. I just need this for the top part of the hill. All right, now what you do is you watch your painting really close. And you watch it for places that are drying a little bit weird, like right here. I'll hold that up. See, we're getting some weird drying going on right here. Put the water back over it. Pull it apart, keep it from doing that. Down here, it's okay to have it a little bit like that in here, as long as we don't get those giant splotches like I just showed you. We want to try to avoid those. Now I'm taking this and doing a little bit of white in between. It kind of looks like the sun is blaring up through there a little bit. And softening up any hard edges. Making sure I'm getting right to my edges on this so I don't get like a little white glow right at the edge of my paper. Okay, so now I have a really nice base on here. And the only thing I gotta do is kind of watch it while it dries to make sure it doesn't go weird on me, because it will try to if you don't keep an eye on it. When I say go weird, I mean like what it was doing up in there. Okay, so I'm going to have you turn around again just for a second. So look at the screen. You can see what it looks like on the screen, but when I turn it around and show you this way, you can see it's pretty vibrant. It's quite pretty, actually. It looks nice. The camera just doesn't quite pick that up. But now I just let this dry, and this needs to dry completely, like 100%. After this is completely dried, then I'll go in with either black watercolor or black acrylic, probably acrylic because it's more consistent. And I'll paint very carefully my details of that stuff, which would be a demonstration for like the next time we have class, not today. So what I need you to do today is I need you to get your animals selected, your foliage selected. Go ahead, I'll give you your paper, and get it transferred to your paper, have that all set up, and if you can get your background color on to start with, that would even be better. Now, it took me all of about 15 minutes to get that on there. Now, yes, I have, quite a few years experience, but the point being, you gotta go really fast when you do this. You can't fart around and piddle around. It's, once you get committed, you gotta go 100 miles an hour on it to get it on there. And try to always remember to leave some space between your colors, or you end up just having one massive blob of color going across there, and there's no contrast from light to dark. It's really important to keep your contrast from light to dark. Now, with that said,